Thank you so kindly, folks, for listening to us, for being a part of the show. You know, we are nothing without you guys. And you know, it's all about you. Anyhow, we are going to have a great show for you today. I love the way Rourke announced it today. You know, I called him Mr. Sweet Tongue, you know. Hey, Andrew, you know, when you have somebody that has that voice when they're playing their music and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, I want to say, hey, you can announce my show any day, bro.
Some people are just gifted, I guess.
I know, man. Anyhow, what's up with you, Andrew?
I'm doing well. How are you doing yourself, Egberto?
I am doing great. Now, you know, last time you were on the show with me, right? I remember that there is this quote that I said, I'm going to steal that quote. And it came in from Think Wing Radio, which is, tell us a little bit about when Think Wing Radio comes on. Yes. And also, let's talk about that quote before we get started.
Well, Think Wing Radio with Mike Honig is a political talk show on 90.1 FM, KPFT HD2. It's hosted by Mike Honig and co-hosted by myself. And last week, we talked about sort of Mike's core philosophy, I think, which is an educated on your show, yeah, right. Which is an educated electorate is a prerequisite for a democracy. Now, last week I said that Mike was quoting somebody else. I actually talked to him since then, and we found out it's a quote that originates from him. He thought it was from somebody else, but there's no evidence of anybody else saying it quite that way. So that is an original Mike Honig quote.
So we're going to call it an original Mike Honig of Think Wing Radio quote, and I think that is great. 713-526-5738, folks. 713-526-5738. Please give us a call as we join the conversation. Title of the show today, $42 an hour minimum wage. French revolt continues. ACA Preventative Care and Internet archive overturned. Did you hear about that Internet archive thing?
I absolutely did. I followed it very closely because I mentioned last week I'm a card-carrying member of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Yes. They were supporting the Internet archive in that fight, I believe.
Well, let's talk about that later because, you know, we're talking about wanting our society to be more educated, etc., and we're putting all kind of barriers because we want to monetize just about everything. But anyhow, the subtitle of the show: both the ACA Preventative Care and Internet Archive have been nixed by courts. If the same Wall Street fairness applied to all, the minimum wage would be what? $42 an hour. The French Revolution. It spreads. Anyhow, New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg indicted the former thug-in-chief, Donald Trump. Most rags will be saturated with all that coverage. We will not. While Trump may be consequential when we are looking for small thinking, comic, or macabre relief, it does nothing for the condition Trump, neoliberals, and the Republican Party have left America in, as the middle class and poor continues to struggle more and more. So today, we cover 4 subjects if we can get to it, if you guys allow us to get to it. But, you know, that's not a prerequisite. You can call 713-526-5738, extension 2, and talk about anything you want to talk about, because this is your show. Anyhow, folks, 713-526-5738. So we'll start with the first subject, and I think I want to tackle the minimum wage first. It goes like this. I was watching the hearing where the CEO of Starbucks got upset because a senator called him a billionaire. Can you believe that? They called him a billionaire, so he got upset. He her tone as an insult and snapped back. He took her tone as an insult. God, I have quite a few typos in that thing I sent out this morning, the newsletter. Sorry, guys, but forgive me. I was in a rush. He took her tone as an insult and snapped back. He claimed he earned that money. The truth is, our economic system is predicated on what? On the ability of those with capital to get a substantial piece of all the labor and intellect we all generate. We cannot allow the billionaire or super millionaire class to create a narrative that we sit back and believe. We do it at our detriment, folks. Worse, it makes us complicit in our own demise. A recent article brought out a reality that should wake us up. It should wake us up. I'm going to read this little snippet, then I'll go to Ray, but let me read this snippet first. Citing the federal minimum wage in the United States would be more than $42 an hour today if it rose at the same rate as the average Wall Street bonus over the past 4 decades, according to an analysis released Thursday by the Institute for Policy Studies. Citing newly released data from the New York State Comptroller, IPS noted that the average Wall Street bonus has increased by 1,165% since 1985, not adjusted for inflation. Last year, the average cash bonus paid to Wall Street employees was $176,000, 75% higher than in 2008. Okay? 2008, but slightly lower than the 2021 level of $240,000. Think about that. Think about that. Sarah Anderson, director of Global Economy Project at IPS and the author of the new analysis, wrote Thursday that average weekly earnings for all U.S. private sector workers increased by only 54% between 2008 and 2022. Amazing. The total bonus pool for 190,000 New York City-based Wall Street employees in 2022 was $33.7 billion, enough to pay the 771,000 jobs that pay $15 per hour with benefits for a year. Anderson observed, Wall Street bonuses come on top of base salaries, which average $516,000 for New York securities industries. I want you guys to understand the kind of money we're talking about. Let's go to Ray on line numero uno. Ray, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, happy Friday, Egberto.
Happy Friday to you, sir.
I heard you coming. I just heard $42 an hour minimum wage, and you had piqued my interest, so my ears were open to where did you conclude that this would be possible in policy change?
Well, you know what is interesting, right? When they say $42 an hour, I can understand that. Some people are going to scream, small businesses, and I would too. If I owned a pizza shop, I can't afford to give a worker $320, and I have 10 workers. That would be $3,000 a week when you count I managed a pizza shop when I was in college, so I understand the issues, but that's not what the issue really is. The issue is $42 an hour, which should mean like health care, whatever your health care premium is and all of that, right? But guess what, Ray? If we were like, let's say, some other countries, right? Progressive countries. When I say progressive, I mean that care about their people. The employer wouldn't have to worry about things like, guess what? Health care insurance, because it would be covered progressively by wages, right? So which means take off about $10 an hour for the real cost of health care. That drops it to about $32. Then if we had a really great social safety net that people who needed subsidies to put their kids in daycare or some sort of a care while they are able to hold a full-time job, that eliminates, I don't know if you know any parents right now, but I know parents that are paying 2 mortgages because they're putting 2 kids in school, right? So there are all these things. If society looked at families as what they always talk about, family values, that employer then would just be responsible for wages.
That's bull point. They don't care about family values.
Right. So that employer, Ray, could pay that employee between $17 and $20 an hour, and that would be equivalent to that employee getting $42 an hour because he gets all these other services. He's a full-time worker or she's a full-time worker, right? They're doing what society says they're supposed to do, right? Work, so that we all work together. And those people who make a lot of money because they are also putting a lot more value onto, they use the roads more, they use things more, they use our financial infrastructure more. Of course they should pay more taxes, but that's not how our society have been trained to think, you know?
No, it's not at all. And, that's funny you mention that, because it's like, even if you make in America, or as I call it, America, Muica, that's where we live in right now, America.
Yes.
So in America, basically, your net pay is really what you can live on after you deducted all of your life expenses. Like, people don't understand, real wages after taxes, after insurance, after Social Security, and
all the other
Medicare,
fees. Yeah.
basically, that, by the way, the upper class doesn't pay because there's a cap
Thank
that
you.
needs to be lifted desperately. Why shouldn't they have to pay when they are the ones exploiting us, and we're going to need it in the future after we've been having our backs broken trying to do all of this work for them?
Ray, you know what? I love when people call in, especially folks like you that have this information, because it gives us an opportunity to be able to explain to folks things that's just glossed over if you listen to the main news. Let me just pause for a second. Folks, I'd love to have more calls on this issue. We have several other issues to cover. If this issue is tickling your fancy right now, I would love to hear from you. 713-526-5738, extension numero dos. I see a lot of you listening, but not many of you calling. So again, go ahead. I don't have that other app up. But anyway, go ahead and give us a call at 713-526-5738. There is something that I want to mention as well, and to expand on what you had to say, Ray, that is very, very important. When you mentioned that and for those of you that are in chat, I forgot to start the chat up early, so all the messages are not going to be conjugated into one place again. So please go ahead and re-enter your messages if you want me to talk to you or answer them. Here we go, Ray. That point that you brought up is important. Your real wage is when you look at after your fixed. You know what's so funny? In business, right? When you're doing a ledger for a business, there are two kinds of costs that we talk about. There's the fixed cost and there's the non-fixed cost. I don't remember what that non-fixed cost is called. In other words, the fixed cost is that no matter what you have to pay for, and everything else is incidental. When it comes to the national budget, we also have the discretionary budget, and we have the things that we always have to pay for, right? We don't look
like
at the
military.
Yes, sir. We don't look at the family budget that way, even though we should. And why should we look at the family budget this way? We should look at the family budget this way because what occurs is the following. And this is a very important concept for us to understand. When you go ahead and take out your insurance money, when you go ahead and take out, as you mentioned, your Social Security, Medicare, and things like taking care of your family as far as child care, because you have to work in our society, which is, the responsible thing to do, what you're left with is your real discretionary, right? Now, here's the kicker. Let's imagine everybody that's listening to me right now. Let's imagine if we said, society depends on workers, and as such, we have to ensure that workers can go to work. Don't talk about anybody if you're talking about we want families to have kids. Right now, we have a shortage of kids in the United States to be able to handle Social Security later in the future. We have a shortage of people. That's why we need to bring people into this country. We don't have enough. We don't see that publicized quite often, but we have a shortage of people to keep things going. If we want families working, if we want all these things done, we need to have that infrastructure to do it. Then people say, well, who is going to pay for that? Well, based on how much the wealthy has skimmed out of the country, and notice I use those sort of quasi-derogatory terms like skim. I use that for a purpose. When you go to work for somebody and they say, I'm going to pay you $20 an hour, but their profit margin is huge. Let's say like a Microsoft that pays an engineer, let's say $150,000, but that engineer on a per capita basis brings in $1 million and something. Is that really, really fair? There are all these dynamics in the way our economic system works that doesn't give back the money commensurate with your work. I think the most important people on this planet right now are teachers, right? Yet teachers are the ones that some of those that struggle the most. So there are these different discrepancies. So if we had a way to normalize, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was saying you're right about the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They struggle the most,
Mm-hmm.
but their jobs are so paramount in
Yes.
shaping our future.
Exactly.
It's like the way jobs work in this country, it's not based on how much you can contribute to society, but how much knowledge you have to be able to extract wealth from society.
Oh,
It's
sir.
that state of affairs that we live in.
That's beautiful. Let me tell you, it's funny because I wrote that in one of the articles. You'll hear me mention that in one of the articles that I have today, if we can get to it. But the reason I love keeping you on here is because the information that you just put out there is things that I wanted to expand on, because I think we have to understand our worth and work, or work and worth, because that is what allows us to be able to demand what's ours. And notice what I said, demand what is ours, not ask them, because people look at, let's say, Musk got some big kudos for sending somebody at the edge of space. I worked for NASA back in the 90s. We were doing, we didn't, the things that was done, right? Forget about 90s. Let's look at 1969. We use a computer cheaper than my cell phone. Less powerful than my cell phone. And we went to the moon. We went to the moon and back and landed. We did all of that. Musk, with the propaganda that they have out there, he goes and he barely gets up in space and drops back down in about 20 minutes or so. And everybody are giving him the fanfare. Look at what the private sector has done. I would say, oh my God, look at what the government sector has done. We sent somebody to the moon and back. We sent the rover to Mars, and look at all those things. We even brought back some of those things back to Earth.
The government did that.
Yes, all invest. And who is the government again, Ray?
The people.
Thank you.
The people.
Thank you. There's no government. A lot of people like say, "Oh, you always want government involved." No, government, or I want us involved. That's we the people. And it's a psychology that the Powell memo has changed people's frames of mind. They have changed people's minds into believing that somehow that government is that bad thing out there, right?
Yeah, Powell needs to go. He needs to go. I don't know why the Fed is even. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But I'm about to get to work, Egberto.
Well, look,
I love talking to you, and it's always great to know that I got a progressive like yourself who's out there on the airwaves every day talking about what we need
brother,
to do.
We are
because we deserve more.
Look, we are going to continue doing what we have to do, because the truth of the matter is this, right? I know you got to go, but I just want to put one word out there to everybody that's listening.
Yes,
whether you're left wing, right wing, or otherwise, most people are the same and ask for the same things. They institute things to put us at each other's throats. Let's remember that. Thank you so kindly for calling in, Ray.
Yes, bro. Thank you for giving me the space.
You have a wonderful day.
Have a good weekend.
All right, folks, the telephone lines are empty. Where are you guys? 713-526-5738. Extension numero dos. 713-526-5738. Do you want to make a comment? Come on in, make your comment. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes. He says, shortage of kids because the nucleus of ideal family is attacked, and so you go and buy your votes. Like I said, we have both our good left-wing readers or right-wing readers. Eric Hayes is one of our good right-wing guys. I love Eric. He's out there. He's here every single day, twice a day often. Thank you for being here, Eric. Alistair says, I loved your commenters when you called into Egberto at noon Wednesday. Keep it up. Eric Hayes says, Ray, why bashing? No, he's not. Anyway, continuing, we mentioned about the $42 an hour wage. So I ended that piece this way. These are people that produce no product or service of substantive value. Speaking about the Wall Street people that make all this great amount of money that they believe they earned, that they believe they were great for doing. They do not innovate to move society forward. we must learn to respect ourselves and our fellow workers, who are the ones that make society prosper as a large percentage of the rich parasitically leech on us all. I mean, think about that. I really want to think about that. Every day you hear on TV how lazy Americans are. I'm sorry. When I drive in the mornings and I go to and you hear me talk about my stereotypical place, the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia. When I was out there in D.C. and me and my daughter drive into some of those areas, you know what I find? People at bus stops going to work, people at bus stops, people doing what they have to do to get to work. We know many of them making menial salaries. When I go to South Park, Houston, the bus stops in the mornings, they're filled. When I go to mi barrio ahí, están llenas de gente trabajando. They're full of all these people going to work. When I go to my McDonald's, I don't have a problem in that line when I see him or her flipping that burger for a menial salary. No, I'm so sorry. Americans are very hard workers. They're just not very well paid workers. That's the only thing. And I have my SDA guy in here. I want to say, give me your thoughts on that, Andrew, because I know you have something to say about that wage issue.
Well, I'm not a DSA guy myself, but I am an IWW guy.
Okay.
I am a union man.
Okay.
And I will absolutely agree with you. I think, workers understand that the world revolves with human work, with human
Yes.
effort.
Yes.
And, that work is not the fact that there are people making decisions, people making profit off of the work and the effort of the average worker. That's not integral to keeping the world moving. That's not integral to keeping us all alive. The work is what keeps us alive,
Exactly.
not the profit.
Right.
So, I absolutely agree with you. People do what they have to do to survive, and people will do what they have to do to survive in any situation, whether that means, competing like the society that we have now, or a society based on cooperation and meeting everyone's needs. The problem that workers face in America and in most countries around the world, I would say, is that they are not the ones in power in their workplaces. They do not have the power over the work that they do, and they don't reap all of the rewards from the work that they do. They're given a small section of it and expected to make do.
Yeah, it's funny. I have two of my good conservatives on here in the chat. Supporters, actually. Lee Grant says, here is some fun fact. Less than 2% of us workers makes minimum wage. There is no minimum wage in Sweden. How do they do that? Well, there are different structures. Some companies, like in Germany, they make the worker an integral part of the business decision. We don't. So that creates a big difference there. As far as 2% of the people making minimum wage, I usually find it amusing, Brother Grant, when people say that. It's like, it's only a little bit of people making minimum wage. What they don't tell you is that minimum wage is, let's say, $7.25 or whatever it is where it is. As long as you make it $7.26, that statement is true. Most people, 2% of the people don't make minimum. Only 2% of the people make minimum wage. Because if you go now from $7.26 to maybe $8 an hour, suddenly that number zooms up. But it's not a lot difference between $7.25 and $8, right?
And let's remember, there's a whole lot of people that make sub minimum wage.
Right.
People in service industries, restaurants, and these sorts of things where they rely on tips,
Right.
and they're expected to make that minimum wage in tips. Theoretically, according to the law, if they don't make that in tips, the employer has to get them up to that minimum wage. But in reality,
Yes.
and let's also not forget, disabled workers who have a lower minimum wage federally mandated than the $7.25 an hour. So
that is so true, Andrew, so true. Folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 2, and you'll get on air right away, 713-526-5738. 5738. We definitely want to hear from you guys on this particular issue. We also have, para ver, Maywood, welcome to Politics Done Right. Jules Ray Winfield, welcome to Politics Done Right. Lee Grant, welcome to Politics Done Right. And the venerable E2247 is in the house as well. Thank you guys for being here, listening up. Let's go to Colby. Come on in, Colby.
Hi, Egberto.
How you doing, my brother?
Doing well, having a good day.
Great, talk to me.
About the elephant in the room. But about the whole minimum wage and all that stuff,
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to, I'm looking at some figures right now for Texas. The average household income right now is 89,500.
Okay.
Which that's combined income.
Right. That's half the people make that and half the people make less. Yes, sir.
Yes, but what's more important, I think, than the mean is the median.
I'm sorry. You said the mean. I thought you said median. Got it.
Oh, yeah. So the mean, the average is 89,000, and the median is 63,000.
Oh my God! $20,000 difference.
Yes. So we have 3 to 4 times as many billionaires now as we did when we last raised minimum wage.
Right.
So all these billionaires, they raise the average salary up, but what they're really doing is just skewing statistics.
Exactly. You know what is so funny that I don't know how often you listen to the show, but remember, listen to the show every day. But here's the thing that I like to tell people: if I have $1,000, if I said that the amount that I pay out is $10,000, right? And one person makes 9,000, and everybody else makes 100. Guess what? The mean is $1,000. $1,000 is the mean for the wages, right? And people think, wow, that's great. The wage mean is 1,000, but you just use a magical number, Colby. Your magical number but it's $1,000. Let's go to Augie. Come on in, Augie. Let's see. Yeah, Augie, how you doing?
All right. Well, you're talking about Europe and minimum wage.
Yes, sir.
But they also got a thing called co-ops.
Right, cooperatives, yes.
Yeah, and they're working great in the Scandinavian countries and some other countries in Europe. And when they get the workers involved, they do well. And I used to work for Southwestern Bell Telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And the garage I was in, we had 3 different crews.
Right.
And we had this third line boss who decided, he was a modern thinker, decided try an experiment, have a crew that didn't have a supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
The workers would hand out the work and do all the paperwork, order supplies and everything, and see how it worked out.
Right.
Well, funny thing is, production went up, morale went up,
Yeah.
and everything went up. But then he got promoted, and then we got back to a traditional type of guy,
Right.
which we didn't like to work for. And then after I retired from Southwestern Bell, I worked at the BP plant in Texas City.
Right.
And doing telecommunication work over there, and I got to see how they operated in the
Right.
plant. And if somebody got hurt or killed, it was usually a contractor. And the contracts were renewed every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the contract companies, the bosses, would try to do the best they could to get the next contract.
Right.
But however well they did, it didn't matter. It went to the cheapest contract company.
Exactly.
And usually they lost it. But they didn't even have another technician that could work on the copper telephone line, so I stayed when our contract was up. My company lost it, but they put out the notice that if I got hired, the company that got me and 2 other techs would win the contract. So this other company hired me,
Right.
and they won the contract.
Augie.
But,
Augie, let me tell you something, because you're bringing up something that is very important, right? I love what you spoke about when you spoke about the cooperative and also the permutation with, let's say, sort of with what you spoke with yourself, with your company. But what people don't, it's always amazing that you hear phrases like you get what you pay for. You get phrases like give people an ownership society. All these kinds of phrases, many times you like to hear a lot of neoliberal folk use, right? but putting it into action is never really true. Because what you've just said there, I mean, think about it. Think about the performance increase when you had that cooperative behavior in your company, right? Where people apportion work based on their best, he best does this other one best. And it works. You always have some lazy bomb or something like that. But you have that in society, you have that in business, you have that everywhere, right? But most
Correct.
people are good people. Most people want to do what's right.
Right.
Right, Augie?
And yeah, but at the BP plant, there was this one unit they were going to tear down, but they couldn't do it because there's a telephone cable going through it,
Right.
and they couldn't tear it down until they moved it. And I was the only one that knew how to do that. So I got involved in a management meeting, and a BP guy from England, one of the big shots, came over to see how the Americans were doing at this plant. And they're going over, how much would it cost? There was a
Right.
pipeline that went into the plant, but it was rusted out the time I was there for a couple of years.
Right.
But the pipelines are inspected every so many years,
Right.
and they run something called a pig. They
Yeah, I
drain
know
the
what it is. It
pipeline
goes
and-
through the pipeline, and some of them now have all kind of sensors to tell you where there's corrosion on the inside,
Yeah.
etc.
But the thing is, the BP people pay off the company with the pig to pass that pipeline.
There you go.
They pay them extra. They pay them extra money, and they
Right.
painted that pipeline silver, made it look like a brand new
Right.
pipeline, and it wasn't. It was an old, rusted-out one. But the BP guy from England was asking about, okay, if we keep oil running through this pipeline before it explodes and kills people and hurts them, how much money would it cost to pay off the suits that we got?
Oh my
and What's
God.
the difference? And what's the difference between if we just let it go now until it blew up? How much profit would we make? If the profit was greater than the lawsuits they would get, they just said, well, keep it running.
Augie, I want to finish your subject right there because I think I want to cut that piece out that you just said. In fact, I'm going to cut that piece out that you just said and make a blog out of it because what you just said is a way the corporate structure works for airplanes, for everything. The cost analysis base, where life, and notice what you just said, Augie, life wasn't given a value other than what the legal system would pay based on a suit.
Correct.
Wow, thank you. Hey, Augie, I got to continue with the blog and stuff here. And come on in, Andrew. So I'm going to let you go, and then thank you so kindly for calling in, my brother, okay?
Yeah.
All right, man.
thanks.
Take care. Go on, Andrew, before I continue.
Yeah, I also wanted to. I was listening to Augie. I was very impressed with what he was saying.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to add my piece. I think, the IWW, we love worker cooperatives. Unfortunately, there are most banks, financial institutions, even the Small Business Administration will not give cooperatives loans to get started. And I think that Augie's story about the experiment with the self-managed team and the fact that it all fell apart once the manager left, and his story about working at BP, being in the room when that executives meeting was happening. I think that's more proof that you need, when you want these kinds of changes to the corporate structure, when you want these kind of management changes, that needs to come from the bottom up. It needs to come from worker power, not from management, because management can leave. Management can get replaced. It's all about the company's bottom line. Workers, if they have the power, if they organize and they push these demands through to management, they can push again whenever it gets threatened.
Andrew, and that's why the importance of having the young mind like yours out there. Right? Because many of us older folk, right, we are pre-programmed to the way things are. Having the young mind is so important because you know your worth, you know your will. Anyhow, folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension numero 2. Give us a call again, 713-526-5738. Folks, the next subject is the ACA Preventative Care has gone kaput. All right? I hope I don't have any new typos in this one. And as for those of you who got my newsletter pushed out, The first paragraph had a couple of typos in it. Forgive me for my screw up, but I was in a hurry and had to get out here. The Affordable Care Act, though it did not go near far enough, saved millions of lives. One would think that Republicans and neoliberals alike, the party who claim to believe in the sanctity of life and sect would believe, and a sect that believes their economic model has some form of humaneness respectively, would be happy that ultimately something good came out of a neoliberal law. And notice, Andrew, I call the Affordable Care System not a progressive piece of law, but a neoliberal law.
Absolutely.
Right? No, 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 no. They are not happy. They continue to take it to court and they continue to try killing the bills one piece at a time. Una vez más, one more time. And they won an important victory that will kill millions of Americans. A U.S. district judge in Texas has overturned the ACA Preventative Care provision in the law. Common Dreams reported the following. A ruling handed down by a U.S. district judge on Thursday will threaten a range of life-saving preventative healthcare services for more than 150 million people, legal experts and advocates said, as the decision challenged the legality of a federal task force that enforces coverage for services. Judge Reed O'Connor, a Bush appointee who sits on the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, ruled that insurance companies do not have to comply with preventative care recommendations made by the U.S. Preventative Service Task Force, which was established by a key provision of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Let me tell you in English what this means, folks. A lot of people, including myself, when the Affordable Care Act said it saved my life, right? You could now go in for colonoscopy once, however, I don't remember what the period is, and make sure that everything was okay. You could go ahead, women could get pre-screening on breast cancer. The Affordable Care Act had said that not only the Obamacare takes care of it, but if you had private insurance, your private insurance by law had to cover colonoscopy, it had to cover breast issues, it had to cover the women's parts issues as well, making sure that we were all well and healthy, which saves costs. It also made sure that women would not be considered a
pre-existing condition.
Pre-existing condition. All these bad things that insurance companies did were gone. So what is it that the family values, sanctity of life party, along with a few neoliberals, wanted to do now? Oh, that's costing the insurance companies too much, man. You know, even though their profit margins bulging, it's not bulging enough. So we got to take that away from people. You know, we got to take it away. We got to get a few more people dying for the. Look at how it connects to what Augie said. Think about this. Augie said, we looked at that pipe. If after that pipe blows up, it's going to cost us $100 million in lawsuits, but keep it running till it boils over, gives us $200,000 in profits. Let it blow up, man. Yep. It'll kill a few people, but we'll pay for it, and we're still ahead.
And there's another aspect to it. It was costing the insurance companies too much money, and that money was coming out of their politician donation funds for their reelection campaigns.
Yes. So people, this is what it means to you. You see, when this. By the way, this message came over, Andrew, 2 days ago. Okay, the results came over 2 days ago.
Right.
And it was a blip on regular media. Mm-hmm. All right, just a blip. Most Americans hear a headline that says a judge overturns the ACA Preventative Care format. I think they call it ruling. He ruled against the ACA Preventative Care provision of the Affordable Care Act. People hear that. They don't know what the hell that means. Mm-hmm. All they know is, a little piece of Obamacare got cut, but hey, I got my insurance. I'm okay. That's what the average American, they're going to feel, they're going to see, and you can't blame them because that's what's reported to them. It didn't
Sure.
report to them that no longer is your colonoscopy taken care of, no longer is your breast exam taken care of, no longer is your what that thing that women pap smear taken care of. All of that now that used to be taken, that's gone. Finito. Ya no más lo van a hacer. They're not going to do it anymore. 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 2. I would love to hear what you guys think about this subject, about how is it going to affect you? Do you see, did you know about it? Watching your standard media, were you informed of this, or are you just hearing about it now? I'd love to hear that, because, we want to know how to tailor this stuff to you, man. 713-526-5738. I see Eric going crazy in the chat room. Alistair Waters is in there as well, and we got quite a few more that came in with what he had to say about BP, etc. 713-526-5738, extension numero dos, extension number 2, 713-526-5738. If you call now, you'll get on air right away, because the lines are fully unused right now, and our beautiful Marlo is in the studio just waiting to talk to you, and you know Marlo's voice. In fact, I haven't heard Marlo's voice on air today, and I think I need me some Marlo. So come on in, Marlo. I want to hear some of what you have to say based on what you've been hearing right now.
Well, I'm always interested because I too am a member of a union. So I believe in the idea of collective bargaining, and I am always afraid and a little angry when people are constantly trying to take our rights away.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you know what? That's why we're here, Marlo. Because
Oops, I gotta go.
Yeah, that's why thank you, Marlo. That is why we're here, because we want to make sure that folks understand that, there are reasons why these things are being done. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. You won't have a wait this time around. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts. What can I say? This is your show. So to finish up that particular article, I said, the party that believes in the sanctity of life is comfortable with the sanctity of death if there is a cost associated with life. If there's a cost associated with life. All right, since nobody else is calling on the ACA, I'm going to give 30 more seconds on that. 713-526-5738, extension number 2, if you want to discuss anything else about the ACA. But we're changing the subject a bit now to the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive, what is that, you may ask? We want an educated society. Let me tell you this. Our economic system believes every aspect of our society must be monetized by the few. Again, it is parasitic in nature for the wealthy. As the country's IQ falls because of our lack of investment in an educational system commensurate with a forward-moving country, and that we are a forward-moving country, the corporatocracy is busy attempting to make sure they can make a few pennies on every word you read. A chilling ruling against digital books by a U.S. district judge has the Internet Archive vowing to appeal the decision. Internet Archive, which is the name of the group, vowed to appeal after a U.S. District Court judge on Friday sided with 4 major publishers who sued the nonprofit for copyright infringement. Common Dreams reported the following. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Internet Archives operated a controlled digital lending system allowing users to digitally check out scanned copies of purchased or donated books on a one-to-one basis. As the public health crisis forced schools and library closures, the nonprofit launched the National Emergency Library, making 1.4 million digital books available without wait lists. Hachette HarperCollins, John Wiley Sons, and Penguins Random House sued Internet Archive over its lending policies in June 2020. Judge John G. Kotel of the Southern District of New York on Friday found in Hatchett versus Internet Archive that the nonprofit creates derivative ebooks that, when lent to the public, compete with those authorized by the publishers. That is not true. The judge may feel that way, but that is not how it works. Internet Archive argues that its digital lending makes it easier for patrons who live far from physical libraries to access books, and it supports research, scholarship, and cultural participation by making books widely accessible on the internet. But these alleged benefits cannot outweigh the market harm to the publishers. Huh? In a statement responding to the ruling, Internet Archive founder Bruce Serkal pledged to keep fighting against the publishers. Let's go ahead and get Johnny on item number 1. Come on in, Johnny.
Hey, Egberto.
Oh, but wait, before Johnny, let me just tell folks. Folks, I know the calls got, a lot of you heard the phone ring and then you had to hang up because you thought it wasn't answered. We were just in the middle of a lot of things, so give us a call again, 713-526-5738, extension number 2. All right, go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, I'm just taking a quick break here from messing with the Republicans of the insect world.
Go ahead, my friend.
I'm stealing Marlowe.
You wouldn't be Johnny if you didn't say that. Talk to me, Johnny.
I did just say it. Shall I repeat it?
No, you're Johnny. Come on, talk to me, Johnny. I got to jump to another one, too. Come on, talk to me.
Dovetail with you were discussing just now.
Yes, sir.
And with the previous caller, whose name escapes me right now.
Yeah, Colby.
Well, not Colby, the other guy.
Ray.
No.
Okay, I forget. Go ahead.
We're all human. Anyway, here's another reason. Here's another benefit. I say benefit in quotes to the corporate industrial oligarchy. This is how they see a benefit for destroying education.
Yes, sir.
For neutering our public schools and eventually eviscerating them.
Yes.
Is that when you don't have an educated populace and demotivated populace, an uninformed populace that's only able to function in the workplace, barely, guess what? You can't have a society that goes to a hybrid economy, like you and I have discussed before,
yes,
where you might have 50 or 60% regulated capitalistic businesses, and the balance horizontally based cooperative businesses.
Right.
They know that, and that's another reason why they're so motivated to disembowel the public school system.
And even the subject that I just covered with the Internet Archives.
Augie, that's it.
Augie, yes, Augie. But anyway, Johnny, you finished for me to go to Rick, or you have something else to say?
No, I just added that, and I thought I'd just put that into the mix for people to think about.
Well, brother, your input is always welcome here. Thank you so kindly. Let's go to Rick. Come on in, Rick. Number 5. Rick, come on in.
I'm here.
You're here, Rick.
Okay. According to what Augie was saying, and the way they play with us, and they strip, away the health care the way they do. They want to strip away our Social Security and such. I'm a person of 69 years age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm still working. I still have full coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But the day's going to come when I'm going to need my Medicare.
Yes.
It might not be there when I get there. The
Well-
way these people are working. But I'll tell you one thing. They make sure that they're covered even through retirement.
Yes.
And they get everything. And something tells me that when they make these arrangements, the insurers will say, we'll make sure we'll cover your colonoscopy and your wife's conditions and everything else if you vote in our favor.
You are so right. Let me tell you what happened recently. I had a friend of mine who is at Medicare age. He's in his late 70s. His wife is in her early 50s. And he wants her to keep that job so that because that job, great healthcare policy, is also going to cover him, because he doesn't want to go through the things that Medicare is going to put him through, which in his case wasn't really bad. But brother, so you get what I'm talking about. You hit the nail on the head. But let me tell you, you said Medicare is not going to be there. I think more positive than you are, and here's what I'm going to tell you, Rick. We have.
Well, I think that if the people squawk enough, they won't take away.
Okay, you get
Medicare.
you got where I was trying to get. We are not victims.
Well,
we
I tell
are
you what.
not victims. We
Right.
are.
A
We
lot of
make
those-
things
a
happen.
lot of those-
Sorry.
A lot of those constituents are Republicans too.
Right.
Okay, that need those services.
Yes.
You know. And one more thing, when you talk about the media, I know that the right wing media will never talk about issues like that.
No.
The left wing media, they're so bogged down with other BS that sometimes they don't get a chance to cover everything.
Well, no. What happens? You just hit the magic on the head, though, sir. Let me tell you what happens. They lead the discussion. They talk about. They make us talk. You notice how I started my program today? I said I am not talking Trump today. Because they want to talk Trump. They want to talk all these other things that has no effect on your grocery bill. It has no effect on your health care. It has no effect on your kids getting support, right?
Right.
So that we are going
Right.
to argue all those things. So I wanted to start my program today saying we're not talking about Trump. So anyway,
That's
thank you
right.
so kindly, Rick. You have
All right, mi amigo, have a good day.
You too, my brother. All right, is that, let's see what we got here. Let's go to Rad. Oh, Rad, okay. Tori, come on in, Tori, on line 1. Tori, you're hot.
Can you hear me now?
Of course I can, my brother.
Hey, so you were talking about minimum wage earlier.
Yes.
And I had a couple of points, from the history department here. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as part of the New Deal,
Yes, he was.
proposed a maximum wage
Yes.
of $25,000.
Yes.
Nobody talks about that. It didn't get implemented. We got the Social Security and all this
Right.
other good stuff, but we didn't get the maximum wage. But that's, really one of the biggest problems here is the concentration of wealth. That is the single biggest threat to democracy.
Oh, my God.
And it's not these dimwit fascists. It's the concentration of wealth.
Yeah.
Because even liberal people like Jeff Bezos or
Tori.
Elon Musk,
Tori.
can, distort democracy.
I want to interrupt you for one reason only, because you're a professor, so you talk in professor language. I want to talk in something that just the average guy understands. Because when you say maximum wage, right, you are going to make people believe that you want to take away what they have earned. Okay? I want you to listen to what I'm going to say very well. It comes across as you want to take away those people who earned something, right? And it's so important for us to set the scale right. You remember there's a time when our highest income rate was 91. I mean, the income tax rate was 90-something%. And it was 90-something% to try to implement something similar to what you're saying here. Nobody earns $1 billion. Nobody earns $100 million. Anybody, and that's what got me irate when I listened to the Starbucks chair. And I go to Starbucks. I wrote my books in Starbucks. All of that. I love the people at Starbucks because he did give them a better wage. He did give them health care. Schultz is right when he goes out there and says, I gave my workers much better than most companies in America. He's right about that. But that's not enough as far as it concerned. He wants to be a god. Say, Andrew, you wanted to say something real quick. Okay.
Well, it was more to let you know you have 7 minutes left.
Okay,
But, but as long as I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you know what? Maybe Starbucks does pay better than a lot of other fast food and minimum wage
Yes,
jobs.
they do.
But that doesn't mean that the workers aren't still getting less than what they deserve. That
That's
doesn't
the point.
mean that Schultz and every other investor and boss and owner in Starbucks is not still siphoning money and wealth away from the
And
workers who
that's
have
what
earned it and
Tori's
produced
talking
it.
about when Tori talks about a maximum income. And
Well, there's another point to
Go
make
ahead.
here.
Make it.
I haven't finished yet.
Make it.
So, as you point out, the tax rate of whatever is one way to level the playing
Right.
field. And, there's a lot of precedents for that here and all over the world. And, in the more advanced industrialized countries.
Right.
But what we can learn from some Nordic countries, I believe some of them have maximum compensation for executives set at like $5 million.
Right.
So they don't have any of this $400 million
Exactly.
executive salary and bonuses. And, it's not because of anything other than it distorts the political system when you concentrate wealth. You can't have a democracy with this kind of extraordinary difference in minimum and maximum income.
And there's another answer to it as well, Tori, and I wish more people would say it. It's math. It's math. If you have a pie expanding at 2%, and the wealthy in that pie expanding on 7%, mathematics tells you that eventually over time that the sect that's getting 7% increase on that pie will eventually eat up most of that pie, and that is exactly what is happening right now in America. Thank you very much, Andrew. We have to realize that. I think I could get another call in. 713-526.
Okay, have a good one.
You too, Tori. Thank you so kindly. 713-526-5738. Come on in, number 2. I don't have your name, but come on in.
It's Brad.
Brad, talk to me, Brad.
You mentioned something about this internet copyright stuff.
Yeah, the Internet Archive. Yes, sir.
So you're telling me if you yourself, you wrote your autobiography.
Yeah.
Okay. You spent, let's say, 12 months doing it. Okay.
Yes.
Who knows? God knows why anyone will want to read it in the first place.
Right.
Okay. But all of a sudden, the Internet Archive gets it and they make copies of it.
Yeah.
And everyone gets it for free.
I love
you
that.
Don't think
I know where you're going. I
shouldn't
don't
get
have a lot of
people
time left, Brad, but you are right. You are absolutely right, Brad. But hear me out now, okay? You are so right. Listen to me now. I've written 5 books, okay? My books are also on the Internet Archive, right? And people are being able to check it out and read it, and I don't make a penny on that. That's fine. Here's the reason why it's fine. Listen to why it's fine. It's not magic. If let's say Kingwood Library buys 5 copies of my book, right? They would then loan that book out one at a time to different people to read, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I got paid already for those books that were sold. Internet Archive works the same. Internet Archive says these are books that's been donated to them electronically, right?
Yeah.
And then
I agree with you. So if one person can read your book
Yes.
through the Internet Archive, they finish it, then another person, but only one at a time.
Right. Yes.
Okay, if you do it one at a time.
Yes, that's how it works.
So you're telling me if you wrote a book, and again, why would anybody want to read it? But let's say I did because
you love me.
Yeah. Okay. So I can check it out at Internet Archive.
Yes.
But no one else can. No one else can until I uncheck it out.
That is right. Yes, sir.
Oh, well, screw that. That's stupid. That's a library then.
Thank you. That's what we were saying. Did you want to add something?
I would actually, yeah.
Go ahead, real quick.
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brad.
You stumbled into the truth. Finally, you stumbled into the truth.
Okay, Brad, somebody else wants to know, but thank you very much, brother. Go ahead.
While we're on the subject of the Internet Archive, there's a Tech Dirt article about, I think it's corporations are one step closer, publishers get one step closer to killing libraries, that lays out a great argument against this idea.
I want you to email me that because I'm going to have to blog it because we're running out of time. Come
right.
reel on, MOD, real quick. You got about 30 seconds.
Hey,
30 seconds. Move it fast, my dear brother.
I know. So China has a green light from the governor of Michigan to build this battery plant.
Yes.
That's coming up because that's a fact. But,
thank you, brother.
In China, hold on.
I got to go. The time is hot, for real.
Just let me say this, that we're meeting on sustainable development, the NATO countries in the U.S., while the rest of the world is getting ready to go to
Thank you very much. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
On Thursday, April 13th from 6 to 10 p.m., art car lovers can get a sneak peek of this year's mobile masterpieces at the Art Car Sneak Peek at Discovery Green. This free and family-friendly event in downtown Houston